We're going to do something different, but I am going to pitch in. So if you're doing a conference and you need somebody to do something super risky or just like come in at the last second, I'm the guy. So what we're going to do is we're going to open source this presentation a little bit. Since I had something for the last one, don't have anything for this one, but we can make this worth all of your time being in the room. So I'm going to throw out some topics, and by show of hands, we're going to start with that. So again, at the AWS event, we're going to do a quantum, like just all the quantum nerds in a corner, but anybody interested in quantum? Okay. Oh. Anybody interested in OpenClaw or Paperclip? Okay. It doesn't really help a lot. Any AI takers? No, I'm just kidding. All right. So what we'll do is we will just take this and make it kind of an open Q&A about all of this, because we only have 30 minutes, which I know sounds like a long time until I start like blabbering like an old man. So I'm going to take questions. The way we're going to do it is I got to remember you, so I'm going to pick out the first 3 or 5 where I can remember where you're sitting, and then I'll ask for everybody again. So everybody that has a question about any of those topics, raise your hand, and we will make sure that you leave here with valuable information on the quantum or the paperclip or the OpenClaw setups. All of it is open. Anybody have a question? None of you? Really? All those hands? Nobody have a question? You have a question. Okay, what do you want to show me? I don't know that woman. I've never seen her before in my life. Wait, I have to take my glasses off. Okay. Okay.
So I'm supposed to meet you anyway, Mark.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Well, it's nice to meet you. We can chat after our drinks. Very nice to meet you.
That was my question.
There was no photo. Yes, sir. Did you raise your hand, or are you just putting your jacket on? Oh, wow. Okay. Go ahead.
Can OpenClaw truly be secure?
Yes. Can OpenClaw truly be secure? 100%. Let's start this marrying here. So this is my latest bot, Sophon. This is the one that I used in the keynote this morning. How do you get it secure? Which, again, 4 of you were in the other room, so I'm sorry you're hearing this again. But this is a super important question. Don't install OpenClaw. Hear me out. Hear me out. Install Claude command line, or one of the CLIs. Could be Gemini, could be OpenAI, could be Claude. I use Claude for this specific function. I install the command line, and then I have it install OpenClaw, install the latest version of OpenClaw securely. When the install is finished and it's up and running, I then say perform a security audit on the OpenClaw install. It will give you a list of things. It says, I don't like this, I don't like that, the messaging has no allow and disallow list or whatever. Take those, feed it into OpenClaw. It will disagree with that. Usually about 60% of it likes, and have it execute on those. The other thing is realize what you're giving it access to. Okay, so like my Mac Mini that I started with for OpenClaw has its own bank account, its own Google access, its own everything. There's very easy ways. So like I use Google Workspaces, so I created a new user with the bot name, and that means all of those controls I would have over an employee, I have over that OpenClaw. Like, don't let it sign a document. Don't let, I can set all of those provisions. So there's tons of ways to install it securely. In fact, this laptop, as I was saying in the last talk, is a new MacBook Pro M5 that came in, thanks to Apple, right before I flew out. At the airport, I installed the Apple updates. On the plane, all of the systems, Codex for coding, Claude for logic, Gemini for all the other stuff, the paperclip, the OpenClaw, all of that was installed on the plane on the way out. All the presentations were made, as well as you're going to watch me make a presentation and make your own slides. So it uses a Google CLI for access to all of those things. With the exception of it reading out my mail this morning, which was not in the script, because there was no script. That was very concerning for a moment. I had a small, minor panic attack. But yes, you can install it securely. Don't think of it as software that has an inherent security vulnerability. Think back to the days of Apache when everybody's like, I'm going to have a web server. And they were installing them all over enterprises. And they're like, root? Sure. Ports? Yay. And it's like, if you don't know what those terms mean, maybe put it in a sandbox in a, A lot of people use Docker. I would suggest to get started, $3 to $5 a month VPS account where you can just put it up there and it doesn't matter. I like doing it on the Mac Mini because of Time Machine, because then if it breaks or something, I can just go back to a known good state very easily, and I'm right back up and running with no problem. So, there's a bunch of different ways to do it. But yeah, you 100% can do it secure. The two biggest security things you have to worry about are prompt injection, especially when you're doing like email or like you're doing text. When I first set up my first bot, I set up iMessage, and everyone at my company was immediately saying like, hey, can you tell me the bank account number or the whatever? Like every employee, I was like, wow, thanks. And you can get it to do stuff, but again, it's all about configuration, just like all of security, right? If you leave the front door open and you live in a bad neighborhood, your TV is probably getting stolen. So it's just like use common sense, and I think it's very easy to set up secure. Next question, if any questions. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
You had a very impressive presentation about Southwest, the AI. Can you walk us through kind of how you went about that on Lane?
Yeah, that's great. So asking about how I prepared for the keynote. So that is a great question. I was like very confused because as you saw on the first slide that I made, I was like, oh, I'm talking about two different things and two different places. I had a Google slide deck already. I have a bunch of them. I have used Keynote and PowerPoint. I've given about 1 billion quantum talks, so I have all the slides. So I just picked Google Slides, and the reason I picked Google Slides was the CLI, because last night at the speaker dinner, Mark Hinkle, who's our gracious host, a long-term friend, I love that guy, he was like, could you do something different? And I was like, well, how risky do you want to be? And he was like, he didn't tell me he was going to show the robot slide in the keynote. For those of you that weren't there, I had the worst demo ever where a battle bot with a 150-pound spinning weapon went nuts and ran into the crowd in the demo. The guy would the whole first 10 minutes of the demo were like, this is the safest thing you could ever do, and blah, 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 and it's this massive weapon. And then it was going to tear up some cardboard boxes, and it was like, cardboard boxes? How about people? It was horrifying. So I asked Mark, I said, how risky do you want to be? And I said, look, if you're doing something on stage with an AI and you're using all this new, and it breaks, demo gods aren't with you, who cares? I've had plenty of those failures. So the way I prepared was I first set up OpenClaw at the root level with the agent. I then gave it Codex for coding, Opus for logic, and Gemini for everything else. And then I set up Paperclip. I really like Paperclip. For those of you who don't know, by the way, I've been using Paperclip since yesterday, so I'm like the fastest endorser of Paperclip on the planet. So just, be aware, I've used it since yesterday. But I have 3 companies here. This one is one I invested in. It's called Occam. You can find out about it at occam.com. It's a cool financial kind of a company that's all agentic. This is StrangeWorks. This is my mainstay. And then this is just whurley, which is my holding company for everything. I don't do consulting or any of that stuff. But what I did was in Paperclip, you can set up a CEO. And so you can set up the CEO with all of their, kind of what they're going to do. And then I set up Sophon, which is the OpenClaw agent, as a board member. So nothing in Paperclip can happen or be executed on without Sophon's approval. Sophon, of course, messages me on Telegram for a final approval. So think of it kind of like a 2-step. So if I went in here and I gave it a task and I said, why don't we, build some software, it would spawn a sub-agent that was a software developer. And that software developer would write a PRD and all that stuff, and it would get approved by the CEO and Sophon and then come to me. The really great thing is that you can set budgets. So if you're worried about inference spin and stuff like that, you can actually set it up where it's got a whole ledger of all the tokens it's spending and the money it's spending, which is super cool. As you can tell, I haven't used that yet. Like I said, I installed it yesterday at the advice of my co-founder Justin Ewens, who, if you want to know where the cool tools are, you always ask him. But it's super, super cool. And so then with Sophon, I basically, last night, after we got through drinking with Matt, I was like, I wanted to get some sleep before today. So I was like, look, tomorrow I'm giving this presentation. I want you to watch the presentation while I'm giving it in Google Slides and write your own presentation. To which it was like, I should set up a presentation template, like a blank template to have already with the file name and all. So it did, and it set up its presentation. And it was like, I'm going to use black slides because you use white slides. And then I called my designer and was like, I hate the fonts it used. What's a good Google font? And so I switched the fonts. That was the level of effort in that. And so it was watching the presentation happen, listening on the mic. And in the last 5 slides, it could interrupt me at any moment. And so all it was literally doing is it knows there's 40 slides. And so between slide 35 and 40, it could jump in, right? It, for whatever reason, waited till next to last slide, and then it came in, and when it came in, it had this function called heckle, and it was just like, heckle me. And so it was kind of like, I've got a question, blah, blah, blah. And then it started giving the presentation. Using the Google CLI, it can, APIs rather, it can not only write the presentation and everything, it can advance through the slides. It used 11 labs to read, the slides, but it wasn't reading the slides, if you noticed in the presentation. It ad-libbed everything. And so this morning, 15 minutes maybe before I was supposed to go on, I was like, let me just be careful. And I'm just going to run through it. I was like, let's do a dry rehearsal. And it was like, great idea. And so I ran through it. And it said some stuff. And some of it, I was like, this is going to be amazing. And then other stuff, I was like, that's horrifying. It had that slide that said, you're bugs. And it was like, you're the problem, not us. I was like, whoa, that is not cool. And then Mark sent me a text and was like, we have 2 minutes. Where the fuck are you? So I ran over there, and then when it did it live, it actually said completely different stuff that it did. So it was, all of that was just completely ad-libbed by the engine. So that was Claude doing that ad-lib conversation, using 11 labs for the voice, and using the Google API to track, it was advancing its own slides and whatever. And it had a couple delays in there that I didn't expect. The thing that surprised me was how fast it was making up stuff as it was going through the slides. It was fairly smooth. I kind of expected it sends something to Claude and it waits and then it was moving along at a pretty good clip. I don't know why, because I haven't went through the code or any of the logs to see, but that's probably the most interesting thing for me. Yes, sir. I set that up. That was almost all through OpenClaw, through Sophon, through this agent. So my OpenClaw is configured with all those AIs, and then with every API I can give it for any of the services I have on this laptop. So that's all Google API. Go ahead.
Did you change your timeout setting, or how did it keep going?
What do you mean, how did it keep going? Are you talking about the context window?
No, not the context window, but how did you keep it awake? The session for your main agent.
Yeah. You can just set it to, it never sleeps. And so it's got, one thing you can do, I'm old school, so I got a cron job to make sure that it's never asleep. So it's always just watching it. In the last 4 versions, I haven't had to have it restart anything. Before that, it would watch for 3 things. You can read it's going to give you an error message when it crashes or falls asleep or can't connect to the gateway or whatever. That's going to be in Chrome. And so I switched from Safari to Chrome so that I could have an extension I built that watches that when it does, says, oh, problem, it passes that through Chrome to an agent that just says, okay, let me restart it. Originally, that agent was Claude CLI. It would pass it to there and be like, restart, or if it had a problem, run the OpenClaw doctor. Right, so it would also do that, but now it's been super solid and. No, I run it through its native AI, but it does connect to. This one doesn't. This one only connects to Telegram. My other one connects to. Here it is. This connects to Telegram, so you see it was showing me the slides. And then I thought this was super useful. I asked about this. At the end of the presentation, it was like, it'd be cool? A bunch of buttons in case it goes wrong. And I was like, you're done. That was at the end of the presentation, not at the, that would have been super useful to have at the beginning of it taking over. So there was that little snafu. Although I will take that and use it if I ever do that again so that I do have some kind of control. Because when I walked off the stage, I told Mark, I was like, you ask, you could curse or I have no idea what's going to happen. But yeah, in the last 4 versions, I haven't had a problem with it slipping up. Here's a problem it has. If we leave it here long enough, or if we put our computer to sleep and you open it up, it'll say lost the connection with the gateway. But that's actually a Wi-Fi thing. Like if you just hit refresh in the browser, it just kicks up, not Wi-Fi thing, a status thing in the sleep system on my Mac. So I just hit refresh and it's right back. If you ran this in clamshell mode, you wouldn't have that problem, right? Which is the other thing that I haven't set up on here yet, because literally I took this out of the box yesterday morning on the way to the airport and then left the box with the driver. I was like, hey, could you do me a favor, Robert? Could you just keep this till you pick me up on Wednesday, or take it back by the house or something? But yeah, it's getting very, 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 very solid, very quick. Peter and the team have done an amazing job on that. Yes, sir?
On the topic of OpenClaw, what, in your opinion, are like the gaps or the roadblocks to something like this becoming more mass market, to where outside of this room could...
So what are the gaps in roadblocks in the OpenClaw becoming mass market? So I messaged Peter early in January and was like, hey man, congrats, because like my co-founder knew him from way back in the mobile days and all that and open source, and I was like, hey, super cool project. And then he literally sent me a text, was like, awesome, I've added you to the maintainers. And I was like, like I don't have time to maintain anything. But although he doesn't know it, and nobody knows it, I've been secretly working on exactly what I think. That I think it's three things. I definitely think it's some of the setup still, even though it's gotten considerably easier. I think the interface, like when I look at all of this, it's like, here's my agents and my skills and the nodes and the config and I think about a normal person looking at this, at instances and sessions, and being like, what's the difference between an instance and a session, right? Like I think a UI refresh would help a lot with that. So install UI refresh, and most importantly, some sort of sub agent or something that can help. Like when I'm setting up people on OpenClaw, and I've now set up like 100 people or so, I'll set them up and I'll be like, here's the thing, you have a Claude subscription, install the CLI to do it like I said, but also when it breaks, ask the CLI like, OpenClaw broke, what's up? So having a good install process, better, more kind of UI that's more accessible and understandable, and then having a sub-agent or some kind of process where you're like, hey, if I break, ask this thing over here or whatever would be super useful. But I mean, that's my opinion, and I'm really behind. It's March, it's going to be April, and I haven't committed anything, but it's because I really want it to be super, super cool. I mean, to we use... in this project at StrangeWorks, this is our new beta. We actually, if I call this all things AI, this is our new interface, which can listen to Zoom calls and team calls and everything, and reduces all the complexity out of quantum computing. So you just talk to it, and you're like put my cursor in the right place. I'd like to automate. Rather optimize manufacturing placement of robots in a new plant for building airplanes or whatever, right? And so I said all of this crazy stuff, it didn't even work. And then basically it uses whatever LLM that you want to connect to for the tech stuff, and it says robotic manufacturing, robot placement. And then you can just be like, do all of that, right? And like, yay, like I don't know what I'm doing. Like OpenClaw needs that kind of just like OpenClaw go, right? And then it's just like, hey, I see you got a lot of email. Want me to do that or whatever? Like I think a lot of people, when I talk to people who, I don't want to say that everybody's a developer now, but when I talk to what I call new developers, they're like just don't know what they want to do. Because you go on YouTube and you're like, it does everything. It's financially trading and doing email and talking to my wife, so I don't have to. This is incredible, right? Or whatever stuff. So I think that's it. Because as you can see, this will build what this will do. What's the best look like for you, for example? And again, I don't know. So like all of that, sounds great. And so this will go through, and in a second here, it'll start building out like requirements and objectives and KPIs and all that. So like now it's defined. It says maximum airplane manufacturing throughput while maintaining robot manufacturing and placement cost and minimizing time for full plant operational capacity, which is exactly what I told it, as you heard. But then it'll ask questions and just say, do you have a defined list of robot types? I'm like, take your best guess. Sounds good. That kind of interaction is what I think it doesn't have, right? And so, we've been doing this with the advanced compute stuff because quantum computing is super hard. So see it's building, so it's got riveting and drilling robots, it's got it twice, it'll clear it up. There's a reason it does that. It's got welding, assembly of material. It's going to go through and build out if there's any assumptions. It's got a decision thing here where you can see what assumptions it's making, what decisions, and then saying, what's the scale of this plant? It's fucking huge. And it's just like, okay, what's that mean in square foot? And you're like, I don't know, guess. And it'll pull all that data in. But something that makes it easy like that. The user interface should be seamless as possible. Like, I almost want it to anticipate what I'm doing and do it. And that's what we've been trying to build there with the StrangeWorks stuff. If I come over here to OpenClaw, which I just, then, just think of a new user dropping in, and it's like, okay, there's a chat, and it's just a blinking cursor. Like, where do I start? What do I do? So, maybe another thing in the UI that I've thought about but I haven't built yet is, what if when you started it said, hey, let's do your first project. Here's like 3 choices. Like, you want me to triage your email or do this or do that? And it's like, and then kind of walked you through how to do that stuff, like kind of a little step thing. I think that would help a lot. I think NVIDIA's announcement last week about they're trying to do it for enterprise, I'm hoping Apple or somebody will do it for everybody else, be super cool. But that's very long-winded to answer your question, because I've literally been working on that every day for months. And I haven't committed anything yet. I'm going to go to her. And don't worry, I will come back to you. You ask great questions.
All right. So maybe for those of us who don't make as much money as you, what sort of budget should we consider for experimenting for these types of things? How do we measure is this worth our investment? Our hourly rate might not be as high as
Just tokenized cloud code.
I still, I still think the hourly wage thing's good. Look at it. Look, there are free plans, and they do plenty. I would say OpenClaw on a $3 to $5 a month VPS with a free plan is a great place to start. And you definitely probably got the $5, right? And then you can get started experimenting. And there's nothing wrong with starting there and building up. I mean, when I started, I was like, I don't want to put anything in here. I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. And then, as I, started coming up with, okay, well, here's better ways to use it and better stuff to use it. The first thing I think about as an entrepreneur is use it up, wear it out, make do or do without, right? So I'm like, it's got to do something for me, right? Or I can't do it because I'm used to starving. It's like hand to mouth as an entrepreneur all the time. And by the way, being an entrepreneur is like being a musician or an actor or whatever. You're only as good as your last thing. I started a new thing, hasn't really done anything that you've all read about yet. So it's irrelevant, right? So it's hard to raise money. It's hard to do all that. But yeah, $5, there's plenty of VPS providers. There's plenty of companies now that are jumping on the OpenClaw bandwagon. There's start for $10 a month or whatever. Those are fine places to start. Open source models, fine places to start. I don't have a favorite open source model. As I said in the last one, I don't use the Chinese ones, not because of any other reason than, they're Chinese. No, I'm just kidding. I think they're all derivative models. So it's I might as well just use, Meta's or whoever's, because that's where it was all taken from. And that's the case with most of those models, not just the Chinese ones, right? A lot of people are distilling models like it's crazy. And I think it was Cursor last week. They released their new thing, and they're like, new amazing model. And then somebody was like, this is actually somebody else's model, which was super interesting. So, if you use LM Studio, which is great, just go through and see what the ones everybody are using and pick from one of those, and you'll probably be fine. Yes, sir. I won't forget you, dad shirt guy. That's what I'm going to call you from, so I remember.
I'm somebody with a communications degree and I work in advertising. And a lot of this stuff
Worked. No,
worked.
worked, right? No, I'm kidding.
A lot of this is becoming the talk of the town in my industry.
Yeah.
And I wonder how can someone like me prepare for a world where this is going to be
This is a great question because I just spoke at an ad agency a couple months ago about this. I don't know. Let me explain. Hopefully, there's a bunch of new jobs created, all that great, hopeful stuff. But let's talk reality. We were spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on lawyers, and then now we don't spend that as much. And I have never had a marketing department, and now have the best marketing department ever. Advertising has two inherent issues in it. No different than software development or legal or any knowledge-based work, right? The number one thing is what a lot of ad agencies do really good is the placement of the ads, not just the creation, but like the management of the budgets and where it goes and the campaigning and stuff. And that all can be easily scripted, right? Now where they're getting hit is, and where I would, if I were you, I mean, I'll be honest, if I were you, there's going to be a time of arbitrage where you leave your agency and you're like, I'm a one-man agency, and you go do all that work better, cheaper, faster. But like we're all racing to the bottom to zero in those knowledge workers, right? Software will hit first. Legal will be the last. Advertising is probably in a neck and neck race with software to see which one of us can be out of a job first, you or me. And that's the reality, right? But there's this arbitrage period. And I live on the bleeding edge. So when I say 2 years to do that, maybe it's really 5, because there's a bunch of people that aren't at this event that don't know, and things take time for top. Lawyers are already lobbying against it, right? So they'll use their lobby power to fight that off. Ad agencies won't be able to do that. Software developers won't be able to do that. Maybe in the specific areas like security software or something, maybe there's something. But it's really hard to tell you. I have a 30-year-old, he'll be 30 in August, and I have a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old. And I get asked all the time how to prepare kids. It's like, I have no idea. Like, my 10-year-old is writing Roblox games using his iPad by like yelling at it, like, make it go faster, make a pink laser or whatever, like play classical music. And it works. And I don't know if any of you use Roblox, or if your parents that suffer from Roblox credit card charges. That software looks like old 3D software. So like you make a block and then like you set all the parameters on it and all this stuff. So my son went to coding camp to do it, and he got frustrated with it. And so I was letting him use my first bot, and I was like, hey, how could we do this? I was like, oh, you got to use the Roblox Studio, and this is like a walled garden, and blah, blah, blah. And so then I had an idea. I go, it creates a file, right? And it was like, the agent was like, yeah. I was like, well, he's got files on this computer. Like, here are the files. And it went and reverse engineered the files. So now he describes voice to text on his iPad what he wants. And it's like, I know what you're talking about. And it writes a file. And then he opens the resulting file in the studio. So he doesn't use any of the studio functions. So, okay, what does that mean? So when you start thinking about that, you start thinking about a 10-year-old who's not a super nerd. He's like good looking one, looks like his mom, he's great, who's building a game that my buddy who runs a game studio would have had a 10-person crew do last year. And so you just look at that and you can like kind of extrapolate out to where that goes, right? Which is great. I think everyone should be a software developer. I'm welcoming it. I bought a camera bag and a camera because we're all going to need hobbies. So I've decided my first one's going to be photography. But it's for ad agencies, like, it's terrifying. You know what terrifies me? All the video stuff. That's what I would be worried about if I were you. That is impressive. And you've already had Super Bowl commercials done by AI. You're having a ton of new commercials done. Like, advertising has a huge wall it's about to hit of technology. And advertising has historically either been, you have firms that adopt technology early, or firms that are like, we do it the old school way, right? And if I were you, I would be looking for that arbitrage opportunity. I would be leaving, starting my own agency, using the agents, and grabbing up everything I could while I could as that inevitable race to zero happens. Like, nobody in a year or two is going to be paying millions of dollars for an ad campaign, or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I'll come right to your question next, sir. But I used to make CDs for a living. Like, I've been through this. Like, I can tell you 100% it's happening. Your Golden Master wouldn't work, and it was written in Macromedia, Studio, but before that was Macromind, and I used to have an X object that would fix everything on it, and it would burn, and I charged $5,000 for an hour, and I was like, I'm gonna be rich for the rest of my life. And I got like a job with my buddy Graham every couple of months. And it was okay because it was a minimum of 3 hours. We made like 15 grand, and we lived in Temple, Texas with $400 a month rent. It was a great. And then, like 8 years later, like, my kid was like, "What is this thing?" So like it happens. Yes, sir.
So, jumping off on your answer to this question, let's say you go back 50 years, 100 years, whatever. If you needed a house built, you would call a carpenter, plumber, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And now we're at a point when anyone can buy these tools. They're all
Yep.
simple. You go to Home Depot, you see some videos on YouTube. You can put something up. Do you see something like that happening
To trade skills? To trade skills? Like, okay, do I see something like happening to software with AI to like plumbers and carpenters and stuff like that?
similar to that? Because now a lot of those people,
Oh, yeah.
they're not the only people with the tools, they're not the only people with the knowledge. Anyone can.
The,
A lot of other professions, will they also become like that?
the answer is, the question is, will a lot of other professions, even hard skills, become in the same way that I'm talking about software? The answer is eventually yes. I'm from Austin, so that's the home of a giant robot that prints houses. So yeah, I mean, I'm like, why would you have people build houses when you could just print one? Legal marketing, all of that is so gone. It's legal will use lobbying power to protect it, but it's gone. Like software's gone. Like I don't want software to be gone. My entire career is based on writing software, but like I don't write software anymore. I describe software, and I use it, and maybe I could be counted as a QA engineer a little bit, right? But I think that's wonderful. That something that was held by so few people under such lock and key is available to everybody, right? My wife made a little app. She texted my bot. It sent her back a zip file. She installed it on her Mac. Is it a user interface I would use? No. Would anybody ever buy it? Probably not. But where we go from here is we go from the SaaS stuff gets gone, that model's dying. If you didn't watch CNBC a couple months ago, they rebuilt all of Monday.com in an hour on TV. And we all know they didn't actually build all of it, but it was enough to drop the stock price 22% or so in an hour, And in another year, they probably will build the whole thing like that. But if you haven't seen the figure robotics, like I know I live in Austin, Elon's there, Optimus, whatever, but I've actually had some experience with the figure robots. It's super impressive. If you watch what it's doing at the BMW plant, if you watch what it's doing in the shipping centers that they're putting them in, like that's coming, right? And it's not necessarily a bad thing. It just means we got to rethink the way we live. You know what the great thing about humans is? Adaptability, right? I mean, we used to live in caves, like I think we'll figure it out. Like I'm definitely on the hopeful side of that. I haven't forgotten you. No, go ahead.
That might be a positive side, but just like I can be like a part-time carpenter.
Oh yeah. I mean, look, I fix all the stuff at my house. My wife will tell you that's not true. It's somewhere in between us is the truth. It's partially true. My favorite thing in the world is this ice maker I have. Okay, and we're gonna do one more, Todd, and then I'll get off. But I have this ice maker. It makes that little sonic ice. It's phenomenal. It started squealing and making noises the other night. I haven't called a repair person because I'm like, I got YouTube. I got some tools. All right, I'll check it out. Like I can order the part on some website. I'll probably hire somebody to do it because my wife was like, why is the ice maker still broken? Okay. But yeah, all of that stuff goes away. There was a gentleman over here. Yes, I think it was you.
Number one, thank you for that keynote. That AI potential is very, very cool to see. This was a question I was going to ask Mr. Jelen originally. I'm not sure if this is for you as well, but I'm a web developer for, 5
You were a web developer, right? Got it.
glorified 5 years. These days, every day it changes, but after coming to this event, I've seen some other AI, like Claude, ChatGPT, obviously. Would you recommend
I can tell you exactly what I do as a web developer because everybody I know that has a business that needs a website that's getting charged all due respect, but they're getting charged $3,000 a month to host their WordPress thing or whatever because it's some sort of magic. You want to have a Vercel account and a Claude account, and there's a new website, and I'm trying to think of the name of it. No, it's Variant. And so you can go to Variant and be like, make a cool one, and it makes like 18 different versions, and you can download the JSON or the code and put it in a Claude and be like, make that real and deploy it to Vercel. So here's the thing: you get Variant, you get Claude, you get a GitHub account, and you get Vercel, and you tie all those together, and you can make websites that would have taken you and a team last year, a week, 2 weeks to do in 5-10 minutes max. Do what? Yeah, so you're almost there, and it's great. Just remember, the value of that starts going down is everybody. So you're going to have 100,000x engineers, and you're going to have everybody else is an engineer. Anyway, we got to get off stage. Thank you. Sorry, I'm filling in. I know that was rough, but I appreciate everybody's patience. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the event. Todd, where did he go? Did he leave the room? Okay, Todd, Matt. I'll give Matt the mic. Oh, I won't give Matt the mic. Matt does not want the mic. Do we know who's next? Are they here? Oh, well, we're done. I'll see you guys in the keynote room.